Tonight, pick your poison. Arsenic. Arsenic is a gray-appearing chemical element, atomic number 33, also termed a metalloid. Arsenic can exist in a metallic state in 3 forms: yellow, black, and gray, with gray predominating, and in ionic forms. Chemically, it is considered a heavy metal, and shares toxic similarities to other heavy metal poisonings. Arsenic has wormed its way into various uses throughout history, including medical agents, pigments, and especially in the use of creating insecticides and weed killers. When mixed with copper or lead, it is used to strengthen the alloys contained therein, with its practical industrial uses still being implemented to this day. Arsenic and some of its compounds are known to react with certain proteins, and uncouples the process of oxidative phosphorylation, thus inactivating most cellular functions. So aside from particular bacterial species, arsenic acts as a nightmarish poison upon biological systems. So let's talk about some of the forms this fascinating nightmare element can take. Arsenic can be considered as an organic and inorganic. Organic arsenic is any organic compound combined with the element arsenic. This type is frequently used in making various household killers and other compounds. Organic arsenic usually is not poisonous to humans, but may very well be poisonous to humans in high concentrations. In general, organic arsenic is usually far less poisonous than inorganic arsenic. Now, inorganic arsenic is a metalloid that is formed in a number of highly poisonous compounds, such as arsine gas, that is incredibly toxic when inhaled. But it can also be found in nature at low levels, usually compounded with oxygen, chlorine, or sulfur. It can be found in soil, copper, and lead ore deposits, and even water, but usually within low concentrations. However, when industry trudges along and create processes like making wood preservatives, metal compounds, unregulated or illegal wine or alcohol spirit distilling, glue manufacturing, mining, or in the creation of organic arsenic containing compounds, the poison bleeds into our everyday existence. If such compounds are burned, it can create the risk of arsenic being released into the air, and later settle on the ground used for growing crop or major water used to drink. There are many ways one can become poisoned by arsenic. You could inhale it, consume contaminated foods, water, or beverages, even by mere skin contact. Though usually we are exposed to very trace, non-fatal amounts of arsenic on a normal basis. But those who live near industrial areas that currently or formerly used arsenic compounds run a further risk of greater exposure to the poison. If you were poisoned or to be poisoned by arsenic, the acute or immediate symptoms of toxic levels of exposure to arsenic are as follows: vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, dark urine termed black water urine, dehydration, cardiac problems, hemolysis, destruction of red blood cells, vertigo, delirium, shock, and death. Arsenic is shown to be a carcinogen, meaning regular exposure to lower than toxic levels on the long term can result in the development of certain cancers of the bladder, kidney, lung, and skin, just to name a few. It binds and causes rapid destruction of red blood cells, so various medical therapies are implemented immediately to combat the poison. For instance, hemodialysis can help remove arsenic from the bloodstream, but only before arsenic can bind to the tissues, so time is very much a factor and must be implemented quickly. Also, chelation therapy, if done quickly enough by the time of the acute exposure takes place, can be used to bind the arsenic and be excreted through the urine. If enacted quickly, there are some treatments which may stave off the reaper's hand, but surviving arsenic poisoning comes at its own crooked cost. The prognosis for acute toxic exposure to arsenic. Most will develop some degree of irreparable damage to the peripheral nerves, thereby manifesting as sensory and motor discordance. Many survivors are known to suffer from such ailments as cardiac, liver, renal, and skin problems. Most people exposed to toxic levels of arsenic may have breath or urine that smells strongly of garlic, as this is an indicating sign of exposure to the poison. Electrocardiograms and nerve conduction tests are often done in any type of suspected arsenic exposure, as well as other toxicology tests to detect toxic overdoses. Arsenic and its medley of industrial uses have been with us since the age of industry. But for hundreds of years, arsenic has been used to murder people. Its versatile nature of being able to poison through the air, earth, and water have been employed in everything from domestic poisoned concoctions to full-blown government-funded warfare bioagents. So if you fancy yourself utilizing this poison for nefarious purposes, know that you are not alone. Mary Blandy was hanged for the crime of parricide in April 6th of 1752, when she poisoned her father with an arsenic cocktail in his tea and soup, at the request of a dishonest suitor, telling her that the powder would make her father more friendlier towards him. She tried and failed to burn the evidence containing the powder, and her servant managed to retrieve some of it, and later that evidence was used to convict her of murder. Her suitor fled to France. Lydia Sherman was known as the Derby Poisoner, and served the rest of her life in prison when she was convicted in 1872 of poisoning her third husband, Horatio Sherman. However, between 1864 and 1871, she was known to have poisoned her 3 husbands and several of her children. And for a tasty tidbit of dark history, there was a maker of sweets in 19th century Bradford who was looking for a way to cheat food costs for his sweets by introducing inferior materials into the mix. It was a common practice to doctor foods like this at the time. And for sweets making, calcium sulfate was an additive to peppermint candies. In 1858, he dispatched an assistant to obtain some from the local druggist. However, the assistant accidentally acquired arsenic, thinking it was calcium sulfate, and arsenic-laden sweets were distributed to the people, resulting in over 200 individuals becoming seriously ill, and 20 reported to have died by arsenic poisoning. So if the thought of poisoning your annoying spouse by arsenic sounds sweet to you, know that your chances of getting caught are rather high. In 1836, a chemist by the name of James Marsh developed a test for detecting arsenic. Because arsenic can linger inside the body for hundreds of years, hiding in the bones and hair. Exhuming a corpse and testing for the presence of arsenic has been a steadfast way to tracing a murder back to the poisoner. In 1851, in Britain, the Arsenic Act created a poisons register, and afterwards anyone who wished to obtain arsenic had to sign it. And yet, even with all the laws and practices put into place to quell the cruel utilization of this poison, murders using arsenic had continued to propagate throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, with yet untold numbers of individuals who've died by its exposure throughout human history. It's safe to say that arsenic is a poison that we're just going to have to live with.